Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Use the promo code Truth100 and this is going to make no sense, but to get a 50% cash back bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000. So just go to BetNow.eu, use the promo code Truth100, or you can go to our page, thegruelingtruth.com, click on the banner for BetNow, use the promo code Truth100. I am your co-host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. I'd like to welcome in from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing awesome, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, and this is Wednesday, which can only mean one thing. Sam Teets is here with his quarterback power rankings. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great. Excited to be back.
All right, so let's start off at the top. You got Patrick Mahomes 1, Brady 2, Russell Wilson 3. Do we have any complaints with this, Anthony?
No, I actually agree with this top three right now.
I don't. I think Russell Wilson should be number 1 right now.
Yeah, right now, after this past week?
Yeah, I think after the first 3 weeks. I mean, what is he, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he's got a team that's not nearly as talented as the other two. And he's got him at 3-1, Sam.
Yeah, he's always been an efficient quarterback. And we talked about this a little bit last week. Definitely a Hall of Fame guy, in my opinion. And he stepped up his character a lot. He stepped up as a leader a lot in his past 2 years especially. But I still think that Mahomes and Brady, like we talked about this last week too, Mahomes can put up video game numbers. And Brady, I'm not going to ding Brady just because of one bad week. We all know Brady's the GOAT. Like, Brady's ridiculous.
I'm not digging him because of one bad week. I'm just saying if you look at what they're working with, Anthony, I'm pretty sure if you put Russell Wilson in Kansas City, they'd be just as good, if not better.
Yeah, I mean, you really think so? I mean, Patrick Mahomes, with those weapons, he's just playing at another level. And I get that Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson, but, we've never seen anything that, close to what Patrick Mahomes is doing, especially in consecutive years. It's not like he's regressing like many thought he would. He's doing.
Yeah, but the thing with this is Russell Wilson seems to progress every year also. And I know beating the Cardinals is no big deal. But still, I can't get over the fact that Seattle's offensive line is not that great. They don't have a ton of weapons. And Russell Wilson has a team in the Seattle Seahawks that I don't think is nearly as talented as Kansas City or New England. And he has them at 3-1 right now.
Yeah, not taking anything away from Russell Wilson, but, numbers in today's NFL, in a passing league, Patrick Mahomes has to be on top.
All right. I don't buy it, but if I had
especially
a choice,
when he's winning, especially when they're also winning.
Well, so Seattle and Kansas City is Kansas City. They get to play in the AFC where they don't play anybody.
They just beat Detroit. I mean, Patrick Mahomes faced adversity and had to drive the Chiefs, within 2 minutes to win that game.
Do you ever really face adversity when you play the Detroit Lions?
That wasn't like a 10-point victory that they won in the first half.
The Detroit Lions' MO is to blow games like that, though.
You are buying the Lions.
I do like the Lions,
and now they're
but I
games.
know this. I know they're still the Lions when the day is over. Which is why I think maybe they can make the playoffs, but that's about it.
And do you think New England has as much offensive talent as we like to think?
I think
because they're not running the ball at all. They can't run the ball.
I think they have more than Seattle does.
Seattle can run the football. Sony Michel is averaging, 2 yards a carry?
Yeah, but I'm still saying overall, talent-wise, you still got Julian Edelman. You got, Philip Dorsett. You've got Josh Gordon. And I will give you this. The Buffalo Bills, I think, are one of the best defenses in the NFL. So I'm not digging Tom Brady for anything here. To me, Tom Brady, the top three, I completely agree with. I just think that Russell Wilson gets left out of the conversation when you talked about the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think for the last few years, he should be in that conversation, Sam.
Yeah, he's really stepped up. Like you said, this team is not like the Legion of Boom team. It's really relying on Russell Wilson to come in there and be the engine of that entire organization. He doesn't always post the flashiest numbers because they tend to run the ball a lot, but he has been a consistent guy who's been up there and should really garner MVP consideration later in this year. But again, I can't move him above Brady and Mahomes right now. I think the top three is set, and that all three of those guys deserve to be there. But the order right now is can fluctuate a little bit.
Yeah, and I think after the top three is kind of just a mess of stuff here. And you got Aaron Rodgers at number 4, Dak Prescott at number 5, Phillip Rivers at number 6, Carson Wentz at number 7. Does Aaron Rodgers deserve to be that high, Anthony?
I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy. I like to still say yes because, he came back, threw for over 350, 400 yards last week. And he should have against Philadelphia. And really, Green Bay should have won that game. I didn't agree with some of the play calling at the end. And also, Jimmy Graham dropped a couple of touchdowns in the end zone in the fourth quarter that could have put the Packers on top. That game was not on Aaron Rodgers. And then he was also playing a little bit without Devontae Adams.
All right. Sam, what's your take on the Rodgers, Prescott, Rivers triumvirate at 4, 5, 6?
I was fully prepared after Thursday Night Football to put Dak Prescott at number 4, but he came out against New Orleans. He didn't have a bad game, but he didn't necessarily have a good game either. 22 for 33, 223 yards and a pick, no touchdowns. So I was prepared to put Dak Prescott at 4 because he's been doing really well, but then he had that kind of mediocre game against New Orleans, and they ended up losing. So Dak sits at 5 for me. Rodgers at 4. It's tricky because there's no one I think who's really clearly ahead of Rodgers right now. I was prepared to move Prescott, like I said, but then he had that bad game. I think Rodgers is vulnerable. It's just that right now, as of this week, I can't find anyone to move above him.
Yeah, I agree because the top 3 are like heads and shoulders above everybody else. Phillip Rivers got to play against the Dolphins, so we can't really count that as a game. My only question is Carson Wentz at 7. Sam, I think there's a case to be made Carson Wentz ahead of Dak Prescott.
Yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, Carson Wentz has his completion percentage is very low compared to what I would like to see from a player like him. He has had 3 consecutive games completing less than 60% of his passes. So while Philadelphia has managed to pull off a win, I think you can also point to his inaccuracy a little bit as an issue why they lost to Atlanta and then lost to Detroit earlier in the season. He did have a good game, 16 for 27, 160 yards and 3 touchdowns total. But at the very end, it was the defense that won the game there with that interception at the very last second. And like Anthony said, the Packers probably should have won that game. So for me, Carson Wentz still has a lot to prove before I move him up the list.
But doesn't it say something that the Packers probably should have won that game at home in Green Bay with the lead early, and then Carson Wentz throws 3 touchdown passes, Anthony, and they win the game, and he made no mistakes.
No, and I like the way Wentz played. Now, you bring up the completion percentage. In that game against Atlanta, he was their wide receivers were banged up. They also had a ton of drops the next week. So, it's not like he's getting a ton of help in Philadelphia right now. Wentz did play a good game. I don't know if I'm going to put last week's loss completely on Dak Prescott. The play calling in Dallas, that was questionable, especially in the second half. I think Wentz and Dak are close, but I'm not ready to put Wentz ahead of Dak yet.
I am, because the Eagles are infinitely better than the Dallas Cowboys. Next up, of course, that's for Anthony's sake, and I did say it at the start of the year. Number 8, Lamar Jackson. I think that is a huge reach, Sam. I just don't see it. The 2 teams he's played against that were good, he did not beat. He threw 2 interceptions against Cleveland. I think that accuracy is a huge issue for him, so especially shorter passes. So I think Lamar Jackson, I think people went a little overboard on, and maybe they did it a little bit too soon.
Yeah, he's riding the coattails of some of his early success in the season. I was surprised, really was surprised when Cleveland came in there and lived up like they did. It's not entirely on Lamar Jackson. They still put up 25 points, which would have won in some other games. But at the same time, he did throw his 2 interceptions. He has made more mistakes over the last 2 weeks. after being perfect against, well, nearly perfect against Arizona and Miami, which you really should be if you're an NFL quarterback. But for me, I'm holding him at 8 because he has had some success during the season, and also because the players below him, some of the guys right below him, like Deshaun Watson, who I really thought was going to be higher, had another game where he was just hampered the entire time by a bad offensive line. So really, Lamar's kind of sitting there because some of the quarterbacks below him didn't outperform him, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, if you gave me an NFL team and said Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson could be your quarterback, I'm taking Deshaun Watson, Anthony.
I think Deshaun Watson's the better actual quarterback, but he doesn't bring the threat of his legs like Lamar Jackson does.
Yeah,
so
but
I
what
think
does
it's
that
really
do for
dependent
you?
on what
Could
kind
somebody-
of offense you want to run.
I can see this in college, but in the NFL, I mean, when has there been a quarterback to win a Super Bowl that was a huge threat with his legs? I mean, you need a guy that can stand in the pocket.
This is the way the NFL is going right now.
I'm sorry, but it's not, because you can say it's the way the NFL is going now, but the guys that win the Super Bowls are the guys that stand in the pocket and throw the ball still to this day, whether it's Tom Brady, Nick Foles, or whoever it is. So as soon as one of these guys wins a Super Bowl, then I'll buy that. But to me, this is a fad. It's a trend. It's why you've got a bunch of 12-year-olds like Opie Taylor coaching the Cincinnati Bengals, and I don't think it wins in the end. And if you look at it right now, Patrick Mahomes can run, but Patrick Mahomes is a much bigger threat in the pocket. Tom Brady is a much bigger threat in the pocket. Carson Wentz, bigger threat in the pocket. Dak Prescott is. So if we go through all the better teams here, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, all these guys can run a little bit if they have to. Russell Wilson's a pocket passer. He can run if he has to, but he's looking to throw.
Run if you have to. Lamar Jackson is, he's almost like a running back out there.
I know, exactly, which is why he didn't belong in the top 10 quarterbacks, because Lamar Jackson's never going to win the Baltimore Ravens a Super Bowl. Hell, Lamar Jackson will probably be out of the NFL in 2 or 3 years, or a backup somewhere. I mean, but if we look at the top 10 here, out of the top 10, Lamar Jackson is the only guy that you really consider a dual threat. And actually, if you drop down to 11, out of the top 11, he's the only guy ranked in the top 11. So when you say that the NFL is different, it's not really when it comes to quarterbacks.
I don't understand what you mean by that. What do you mean by that statement?
I mean, a quarterback that is just as likely to run as pass will not win. I mean, Steve Young, until he stopped running towards the end of his career in 94, 11 years after he started, won a Super Bowl. I mean, Randall Cunningham damn near got the one when he stopped running.
But Steve Young was behind Joe Montana and playing with the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So it's not like he had the
Though.
opportunity.
Steve Young was the starting quarterback in 1991, 92, 93, and if you look at his rushing yards in 91 and 92, it was more than that.
The Dallas Cowboys, too, winning games.
And wait a second, did Troy Aikman run around a lot? No, because that doesn't win usually in the NFL. Once again, tell me the best pass-running quarterback that's a dual threat in the NFL. You give me Lamar Jackson, you give me anybody else? I mean, because when I look down this list, there's not too many quarterbacks like what you just explained the NFL has turned into. So I think that the NFL has a lot of young coaches that would love to turn it into that, but it's never going to happen because we saw with RG3, who was a great pocket passer at Baylor in college, once you start running these guys, they're running into 230-pound linebackers that run 4.6, 4.7 40s, and your career doesn't last that long.
We're talking about now.
Yeah, we're talking about now, right now. Give me, you talk about how the NFL has changed. Give me guys outside of Lamar Jackson that are run-first guys. Cam Newton was a run-first guy.
The NFL is a passing league.
Exactly.
You said there are young coaches that want to implement this style of offense.
Yeah,
so
yes,
the NFL is changing. It is evolving.
No, it's not.
Whether it's
going
to win Super Bowls or not, we don't know.
But it's never going to change that. The only way to evolve into something completely is to have success with it. And there's no success here so far with these guys that run.
Lamar Jackson's been he's been in the league for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. I'm not talking about just Lamar Jackson. You said this is the way the league's going. But if you look
Russell
at the guys...
Wilson has won championships with his... He ran Russell Wilson.
He ran where? Russell Wilson is a pocket passer. He was in college, too. He runs when he has to run. I mean, I don't know. Am I wrong here, Sam? Do you consider Russell Wilson like a Lamar Jackson?
What year did they win the Super Bowl in Seattle?
I don't know. It
With
was like
Russ.
4 or 5 years ago. You tell me. You must have looked it up. It was something like that.
2013.
2013? Yeah, and then they lost it
Yeah,
in
2013.
2014.
Russell Wilson, 2013. Wait, 2013 or 14?
13.
Okay,
They
in
went back to
2013,
back.
539 yards rushing and a touchdown.
Yeah.
2014, 849 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah. Kenny Anderson
I
ran
don't
for
think
400 yards and was the MVP. I don't think 500 is that big. 800 is. But I also know this. If you look at him, when he stopped running, when he was a running quarterback, you were looking at normally 22 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, 10 interceptions. But since he's become a pocket passer, you've got 34-11, 35-7, 8-9, 34-8. So I think you'll see that he is a lot better passer now that he's standing there and staying in the pocket.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. But, when he was running, he did win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but
and he went to another one.
That team won the Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl with one of the greatest defenses in NFL history.
Oh.
I think this, if Russell Wilson was to start running around right now, it wouldn't be a long career. So, the guy that stands out to me here that I think should be much higher is Derek Carr, Sam. I think Derek Carr, with very little, is playing really well right now.
Yeah, Derek Carr has begun to stand out for me because he's avoided making huge mistakes with that team. And we know he doesn't have a great group of offensive weapons. He does have Tyrell Williams, the guy tight end, but really he doesn't have that superstar player to help him out right now. Josh Jacobs is only a rookie. And he actually is winning games or being in games with Oakland late, which is something that I would not have anticipated coming into the year.
Yeah, and I could make a case here, Anthony, that if you gave me a team, I would take Derek Carr over Carson and Dak.
You can do that if you want.
Because Derek Carr, I think, is a better quarterback than both of them. And I think he's proven it. I mean,
Carson and Dak.
Okay, I know, because Dak's so freaking awesome. Those 10 points he put up on the Saints was great.
What is Derek Carr? Talk about quarterbacks that haven't done anything. What is Derek Carr? What has he done?
What has he done? Well, about 3 years ago, before he got hurt right at the end of the
season, so did Carson Wentz.
He would have been the MVP.
So was Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
so was Carson Wentz.
So with Carson Wentz, so you're just going to repeat the same thing. You sound like Steve Risley. But when I look at this,
wow.
and, Steve's probably listening, so don't say anything bad now. But when I look at this, he was 12-3, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 64% completion percentage. And my claim here is this: it is the only talented football team he has played on. I mean, Dak Prescott has got to play on teams that were pretty good, Anthony. And I could tell you this: if you put Dak Prescott in Oakland in 2017, he'd be just another guy. He may not even be in the league right now.
Oakland, you put Dak in Oakland in 2017.
Yeah, terrible team, poor coaching. Those are basically the recipes for a quarterback that ends up to not be very good. And, he didn't have somebody like Tony Romo there to get hurt.
He had Derek Carr, if that's the MVP year, he had Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper, the same Amari Cooper that Dak Prescott is having success with.
Yeah, and Derek Carr had more success than what Dak's having with him.
I don't believe that. I don't know if that's correct. I don't know if that's correct.
He was like 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And his team was 12-3 at the time he got hurt. And really, they were 12-2 because he got hurt, I think, in the first half of that Chiefs game in Kansas City, which is what sent everything crumbling down. And
I mean, Dak has had Amari Cooper for, 12
Yeah.
total games?
But Dak had an offensive line that was really good. Derek Carr had one that was really good. What I'm saying is, if you look at Derek Carr, right now he is doing more with less than almost anybody in the NFL. All right, Sam, what do you think? Obviously, I'm right. Anthony didn't respond.
Yeah, I think Derek Carr, of everyone in the top 10, I think Derek Carr has possibly the worst supporting cast out of everyone in the top 10 on the list. I think he has the worst defense as well, like out of all these guys up here. So for me, I think Carr, the only issue with Carr is that the team he is on is Oakland, so in some sense it's hard to tell just how good he is because they are 2-2. They did just beat Indianapolis, which is a pretty good team, but he's had some inconsistencies, and that's not always on him. But it's just hard to pick apart where Derek Carr ends and where the rest of the team and bad coaching begins.
Yeah, and another guy I think should be in the top 10 here, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but he keeps playing well, is Jameis Winston, Sam.
Yeah, I know. That's ridiculous. I would have never expected that after week 1, after last year.
And the year
Something
before,
I didn't
and
see
the year
coming.
before.
Yeah, pretty much. Just keep going. But, yeah, he had a great game against Los Angeles. And LA is really worrying me with how they played this year, but LA is an entirely different situation we'll talk about later. But Winston has come out and he's gotten better every week of the season, capping it off this week, completing about 68% of his passes for 385 yards and 4 scores. The only issue he had was 1 interception. I mean, he's been playing really well. The only reason why it's taking so long to climb up the list is because he did have that bad week 1, and maybe I am still remembering how he played last year, and that's kind of holding him back a bit. But for sure, I'm looking at potentially moving him into the top 10 next week because he's played really well.
Well, I think it would have been the perfect time this week, Anthony. Anytime somebody goes to L.A. against what's supposed to be a really good Rams defense, throws 4 touchdowns and puts 55 points on them, you got to start to pay attention to him and taking him a little bit more seriously now.
Yeah, I like the way Jameis Winston's playing. I like the way he is getting a little bit into the groove with Bruce Arians' system. I mean, Jameis Winston has always had weapons, but he's really utilizing Chris Godwin and Mike Evans right now. They have a running game, a semblance of a running game now with Ronald Jones, who looks like he's getting it, and their defense is playing well. If they keep this up, you have to put Jameis Winston in your top 10, maybe over Derek Carr.
Yeah, and another guy that would be in my top 10 that you have at 14 is Matthew Stafford, Sam.
Yeah, Stafford played really well. He's had, I think, 2 good weeks in a row now. He's been putting up better numbers. And this is just the Lions, though. Like, the Lions do worry me a lot because they do what, like you said, they go.
They're the Lions.
Yeah, they're the Lions. It's basically all you can say at this point is that they're going to find a way to lose games at the very end. But I can't really blame Stafford for this one. He did have a fumble he lost, but everyone was fumbling this entire game. That's basically the entire story at that point. He played well, and he's doing a lot with some players who aren't really showing up as much as I expected. I thought Kenny Golladay would be a better player this year, and he had a good game, but I thought he'd be more prominent early in the year. So I think for me, Stafford's definitely trending in the right direction. I just want to see him finish some games and win a little more here.
All right. Also, Anthony, you may be interested in this, but, you know, I'm on the Grilling Truth site, and there's an ad for Kroger's on here, and it's only $6 with your Kroger card for T-bone steaks. $6 a pound.
That's good to know.
I just figured I'd bring that up because I like steak. Matt Ryan, I think I would have had below Winston, Brissett, and Stafford, and Minshew. I think I'd put him right in the middle of the pack right now, and I don't think it's necessarily Matt Ryan's fault, but things aren't going well in Atlanta.
Yeah, things have pretty much fallen apart in Atlanta here early in the season. They're 1-3 right now with 2 losses in a row, 1 to Indianapolis, the last one to Tennessee. And I don't know how, if you're Atlanta, you lose 10-24 to the Tennessee Titans and Marcus Mariota. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Matt Ryan is leading, well, tied for the league lead in interceptions at 6 right now. I just don't understand how an offense that has Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu, and Julio Jones is not putting up more than 20 points per game. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me how they're faltering like this early
Well, I
on.
would think it's because of poor choices on who they want playing on the offensive line, and then guys getting hurt that were not poor choices on the offensive line. And I think everything that we come back to is when you look at the guys ranked in the top 10, outside of Deshaun Watson, they all have at least solid offensive lines. The guys underneath of that don't.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to blame a lot of this on Matt Ryan, but they also can't run the ball. That goes to the offensive line. They brought Dirk Cutter in to be the offensive coordinator, thinking that was going to be a resurgence for this offense, and really it's just not clicking. There's a lot of issues in Atlanta, and it starts with Dan Quinn.
Yeah, and it still goes back to that Super Bowl. It's what I've said since that Super Bowl happened. That would be hard to overcome. Jacoby Brissett, now the Colts are 2-2. And I think Brissett played, good enough to win. I think he's a tough kid, Sam. But when you can't run the ball and your defense is not very good, there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do to save it.
Yeah, he's in my opinion, a very good quarterback, but he's not the kind of guy who's going to be able to make up for all the deficiencies that the Colts have as a team right now. So while he is able to put 3 touchdowns, he doesn't make very many mistakes. It's just not enough right now. The Colts, what they need is that kind of MVP level candidate in Andrew Luck. That's someone who can cover all these issues. But Jacoby Brissett, while he's very good, is not on that level in my opinion right now.
All right, Gardner Minshew. I think that's an interesting one nobody saw coming, Anthony. And I think the question is, with all the problems in the AFC South, is Minshew good enough to lead the Jaguars to the playoffs? And what happens when Nick Foles is ready to go?
I think I said this early on, and that I really liked Gardner Minshew. I was buying into him. And if the Jaguars keep winning with him and Foles comes back, I don't know if you can turn back to Nick Foles and throw a monkey wrench into that momentum.
Yeah, but you also know, Sam, when you pay that much money for a free agent quarterback, the owner wants him to play.
Yeah, they're going to face pressure. It's a lot like when you draft a rookie quarterback high early on. You feel the pressure to play a guy like that. But the Jaguars have come out. They won the last 2 games. They weren't against great teams, but they do have a 2-game winning streak. I think you have to leave Minshew in as long as they're winning. But if there does come a time where Minshew struggles, throws multiple interceptions in a game, and Nick Foles is ready, I would probably say we see Nick Foles again before the end of the season.
Yeah, because the great thing about this that makes it different than a rookie quarterback coming in, Anthony, is if he throws a couple picks and you go to Foles, you can always come back to Minshew and have some hope there when you do that. So it doesn't totally put your team in a tailspin when you make those switches.
So you're thinking that they should go back to Foles?
No, what I'm saying is if Minshew has some problems, you can always go to Foles and give people hope. And then if something happens with Foles, you still got hope with Minshew, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess. And also, this is a familiar situation for Foles. He's used to playing at the end of the year and into the postseason.
Yeah, he's good with just playing the last 6 games and then going to the Super Bowl. It's something a Dallas Cowboy quarterback has not done in years. Andy Dalton at number 16. I'm sorry, Anthony. I couldn't help it. And see, since I'm a Bengals fan, no matter how bad my team looks, I can still make fun of other people because I'm immune to the abuse now. But Andy Dalton basically was throwing from his back. He gets sacked 8 times. The Bengals have the worst offensive line in history. They've got Opie Taylor, who's 12, calling the offense like it's a Madden game. What are your thoughts on Andy Dalton, Sam?
Yeah, you can't blame Dalton for all the issues that are going on in Cincinnati. I know he's going to take a lot of heat because it's kind of been there before situation with the Bengals where it's been disappointing season after disappointing season at this point, but it's not Dalton's fault. There's a new head coach. His receivers are banged up. John Ross is hurt now. He's going to miss some time. A.J. Green still isn't back yet. And like you said, they've got that bad offensive line. You can't even run the ball with Joe Mixon right now, and Mixon's a good running back. So I can hardly blame Dalton for this, which is why he's not lower on the list, even though it wasn't a great night for him. But you can't put all this blame on Andy Dalton.
No, but the people of Cincinnati do, because most people from Cincinnati are really, really stupid when it comes to football, Anthony.
Yeah, I like Andy Dalton. I don't put any of this on him. If he's, you put him in Indianapolis with that talent, look what Jacoby Brissett's doing. And, Andy Dalton brings them to, to a deep playoff run.
Yeah, and he's top 10 on this list. Next up, Jared Goff at 17. I would like to say I've never really liked Jared Goff, but when Jared Goff is forced to throw the ball 68 times, you're probably not going to win the game, Anthony.
No, and that's the issue with the Rams right now. Jared Goff is being exposed throwing that many times, and most quarterbacks are going to be exposed like that, but they need to establish the run to help Jared Goff out. And I don't know if you're going to do that with a Todd Gurley or Malcolm Brown. They drafted Darrell Henderson. Maybe that's the way to go and see if they can get something going on the ground with him.
Yeah, and when I look at this, I still go back to the Opie Taylor thing with Sam McVay or whatever, Sean McVay. I don't really care what his name is because he's like 13. But I just think the way they call these plays and the way that they have a tendency to just ignore the run is really troubling. And I don't see this getting better in LA this year, Sam.
No, it's only going to get worse in my opinion. Jared Goff looks like a guy who's kind of lost touch with where he was last year. So like the first 11 weeks of the season last year, he completed 70% or more of his passes something like 7 times. It was great for him. After the bye week last year, he's an entirely different quarterback. He's the guy we saw in the playoffs. He's leading the league in interceptions this year. He also has lost 3 fumbles already. This is a guy who just turns the ball over almost as much as he scores at this point. And when you've got receivers like Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Brandon Cooks, I don't understand how you can go in there and not put up the big numbers but also avoid the interceptions. He's got to be better at decision-making. And the Rams have to find a way to run the ball effectively. I don't know what's going on with Todd Gurley. I don't know if it's them holding him back or if he actually has issues that are keeping him out. But they need to find a way to run the ball and get back to a more balanced attack. So you cannot continue to subject Jared Goff to all these pass attempts. We've seen this happen before, and it wears down quarterbacks over time, both mentally and physically.
Now, with Baker Mayfield, you put maybe Rex Ryan awoke something in Mayfield. Now, Sam, do you think anybody really gives a damn what Rex Ryan says?
I think Baker Mayfield likes to respond and fire back at people. I think Baker Mayfield's the kind of guy who would take that personally. I don't think anyone cares what Rex Ryan says except for maybe Baker Mayfield.
And I'd like to know how Rex Ryan's fat ass got on TV other than his daddy's buddy, Ryan.
I think that was the answer right there. But
yeah,
Baker had a better game. He's had a lot of bad games this season, which is why he's so far down the list to 18, because he has had the first 3 games are just absolutely terrible for quarterbacks. He completed less than 60% of his passes all the time. He looked lost in the field almost. This game a lot better. They went in, they beat the Baltimore Ravens, which some people were expecting, but not many. So hopefully this is a turnaround. Well, maybe this is a turnaround for the Browns. I'm kind of hoping not. I'm hoping to go back to being struggling again so Pittsburgh can get back on top, but we'll see.
All right, so Kyler Murray is 19th this week, and I think he is the biggest guarantee to shoot up the charts as he gets to play the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend coming up. And I think Murray has looked good. It hasn't translated into wins to me just because the roster is pretty much crap.
Kyler Murray, it seems like every game he's keeping the Cardinals kind of competitive. In the fourth quarter, he tries to make a comeback. Eventually, he's going to need to play well through all 4 quarters because this just isn't going to be sustainable. Eventually, he needs to try to win a game. Christian Kirk, who he's targeting like 10 times a game, he's questionable this week with an ankle sprain. I don't know if it's a severe high ankle sprain that's going to cause him to miss time, but, losing Christian Kirk, they're going to have to put one of their rookie receivers in, whether it's Andy Isabella, who I like a lot and think should be playing, or a Keyshawn Johnson to help out Larry Fitzgerald. But, Kyler will be fine. He's going to put up the numbers, but he needs to start winning some games.
All right, then we got Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota, who are 2 guys that one week look great, the other week they don't look so great. This week it was Mariota that looked good, Anthony, and it was Cousins that didn't.
Yeah, Mariota did look good, but it was against a very overrated Falcons defense and an overrated Falcons secondary. The Titans play up and they play down to their opponents. The Titans went on the road. They won a game. Mariota looked good. this week they're going to get Taylor Lewan back, their elite left tackle, and this is going to be the true test because now there's no more excuses. He's going to have his elite protection. Mariota can continue to play like this. You know, he's playing for a contract, and he's also playing for a division title if Mariota is playing 2 to 3 touchdown football every week.
Yeah, and then we go to Daniel Jones, who looked great his first week. Not so much the second week, but he got to play the Washington Redskins, Case Keenum, and Dwayne Haskins. So what do you take away from this, Sam?
I take away that he's just a rookie quarterback. I mean, we got to give the guy a little slack here. You expect some mistakes to be made. And the Giants, it's just going to be one long season of growing pains, in my opinion, for them. They're going to put Daniel Jones in the game. He's going to throw some interceptions. He's going to throw some touchdowns. He'll make some plays, make some mistakes. It's just kind of the mantra for a team like the Giants that don't have the roster right that's ready to compete in their division yet. But they have a guy who they think could be their future quarterback. But I'll tell you what, compared to the Redskins quarterbacks, they made him look awfully good.
Yeah, he looked like Phil Simms or a prime Eli Manning. Joe Flacco, Anthony. I know you like Joe, and I don't think this is kind of like the Andy Dalton thing in Cincinnati, where I don't think this is Joe Flacco's fault. There's just not enough help there.
I don't know. I'm starting to lose hope on Joe Flacco. I know that he doesn't have a ton of help on either side of the ball in Denver, but Flacco needs to play better. That's plain and simple. I don't know if maybe he is regressing. Maybe he is on the back end of his career, but I'm starting to lose hope with Joe Flacco.
Well, I would think there's no doubt he's on the back end of his career, though, Sam. Wouldn't you think the same?
Yeah, when Baltimore decides to move on from you and you send Joe Flacco to Denver, that's basically what the message is. Is Baltimore and Denver both acknowledging this is a guy who's on the back end of his career. He might serve as a bridge quarterback, and it's basically what he's got left to look forward to for the rest of his time in the NFL.
A bridge to what?
I have no
Elway
idea
can't
yet.
draft anything.
The next guy, whoever that is.
The bridge to nowhere.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, it's a bridge to nowhere, and it's Denver. That's all right. They've won enough anyways. Next up, Kyle Allen. Not a good performance. Needs to take care of the ball better. Still better than Cam Newton, Anthony.
Yeah, Kyle Allen, dating back to Week 17 last year, was 3-0 as a starter for the Panthers. Didn't play his best game, but still the Panthers walked away with a win on the road in Houston. He's another one like Gardner Minshew. I like Kyle Allen a lot, and if Kyle Allen can win a few more games, the Panthers have no reason to bring Cam Newton back, at least this year. Shut him down.
I don't think they should anyways. Teddy Bridgewater. Not great, but just good enough to win, which is Teddy's done that the last 2 weeks against two probable playoff teams. So you got to give him some credit there, Sam.
Yeah, when you got players like Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas around you on that offense, plus that offensive line, it's not hard to win games, even if you're Teddy Bridgewater. But 23 of 30 for 193 yards, that's all right. I mean, it's nothing like – you wouldn't want that as your starting quarterback, obviously, but for a guy who's backing up Drew Brees for a couple of weeks, that's perfectly fine for the Saints. They can survive that.
All right, then Mason Rudolph, 24 for 28, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, but it was against the atrocious Cincinnati Bengals defense, which for some reason still likes to play a 5-2, which is a college football defense from the 60s. But you got to do that when you don't have any linebackers. And the thing that stands out here, Anthony, is 24 completions. 12 of those completions were behind the line of scrimmage, but since the Bengals can't tackle anybody, they were still good quality gains.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to think of Mason Rudolph right now. They seem to be, kind of.
Hey, you want me to give you my take real quick? If the Pittsburgh Steelers really thought Mason Rudolph was coming along the way they wanted, they wouldn't have ran the freaking Wildcats so much, and they'd let him throw the ball down the field. So I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are convinced Mason Rudolph's the guy either.
They need to. I think they're easing him by, and they need to take the training wheels off eventually.
Yeah, but I think if they take the training wheels off, he's just going to fall and bump his head. Sam, what do you think about Mason Rudolph?
I completely agree with you. I don't know why. If you think he's the quarterback who can, lead you to wins, why would you run the Wildcat? Why would you run so many, get sweeps or all these other kind of plays? It doesn't really explode well. I think they've actually dumbed down the offense from like the last 2 weeks. They've made it simpler for Mason Rudolph. There's only one long completion was the play to Deontay Johnson where he's basically standing alone in the middle of the field. So I don't see Mason Rudolph taking this team anywhere, really. I think they're going to have to put a lot on the defense, a lot on like the pass rush if they want to win games in the future.
All right, so what's everybody's take? Case Keenum. We talked Case Keenum. We talked Dwayne Haskins. Who should start this weekend against New England, Sam?
Well, honestly, Case Keenum should probably start against New England because if you're going to get someone beat up by New England, make it the veteran quarterback and not the rookie one. Because you threw Dwayne Haskins against the Giants and he threw 3 interceptions and went 9 for 17. I don't see why you would throw him back out there and risk damaging him any further. I just put Case Keenum back. It's going to look bad because you went to Haskins and then back to Keenum, but it's probably in the long term the right move.
Yeah, Anthony, when I look at this, I think you've got Jay Gruden and the Washington Redskins coaching staff that didn't really want Dwayne Haskins. They wanted Daniel Jones, and they were basically forced by Daniel Snyder to take Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, exactly. That's how my take is on it. And also, I believe ownership was the ones who made Gruden put Haskins in last week. I don't know if you can go back to Keenum right now because that's going to – I mean, I really think either way, you know, you're ruining Dwayne Haskins because if you go back to Keenum now, it's going to hurt him psychologically. And if he goes into New England and throws 5 interceptions, it's going to ruin him psychologically.
Yeah, well – I think they're both ruined psychologically from being around Jay Gruden and Daniel Snyder for more than a month. Josh Rosen, 29. We don't really talk about him because he has no chance in hell, even if he could play. Chase Daniels, I think, should be higher than 30 because I still like Chase Daniels, and I think he's better than that other guy, Mitchell Trubisky, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to see that moving forward. I just haven't seen Chase Daniels play in a while. So, for me, that's why he's so low opening up.
I saw him in college,
like
but Mitchell Trubisky to me sucks ass. So, I'm just going to go with Chase Daniels because I think Chase Daniels is a good quality NFL backup, and I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is even that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mitchell Trubisky is a guy who I wouldn't have drafted if I was Chicago. And honestly, I don't even know, like, if you had an alternative, if you could get someone to replace Mitchell Trubisky, I would do it immediately if I was Chicago. But I don't think they have that option right now.
All right. What's your take on Chase Daniels, Anthony?
I think he'll be fine right now with Trubisky out. I'm not a big Trubisky guy. We know because he was such a high draft pick that the Bears are stuck with him. But at least in the short term, or at least this season, if Trubisky is going to miss, extended time, can't do much worse than Chase Daniels. I mean, he'll win some games.
All right, so let's look at the injuries this week. Josh Allen, who went out for Barkley. I would think this is a huge injury because really with Josh Allen, he is a running back playing quarterback. But it can work in Buffalo, I think, with a great defense. And is Devin Singletary coming back this week, Anthony?
He should, because he almost played last week, so Singletary is heading in the right direction.
All right, so with the Josh Allen, Matt Barkley situation in Buffalo, what's your take on that, Sam?
I think it actually hurts Buffalo a lot because Buffalo with Josh Allen, even though he makes a lot of silly mistakes, like the 3 interceptions he had against New England, he still gives you something I think that Matt Barkley can't quite do. Barkley's more of the kind of guy you just got to put in and hope he doesn't make a mistake. Josh Allen can count and make some plays. Either way, it mostly comes down to what the defense does in reality because Josh Allen's going to turn the ball over, and you can't trust Matt Barkley to run the full offense like an actual NFL starter. So it really comes down to how the defense can hold the other team.
Yeah, and the other thing, the Jaguars' Gardner Minshew was limited in practice with a knee injury. Derek Carr said that Vontaze Burfict has a broken heart because of his suspension, Anthony.
A broken heart?
Yeah, he is heartbroken, is what Derek Carr said about his suspension. Yeah, because he just realized he's not getting paid the rest of the year.
Wow.
So, there you go. And that, they do say that Josh Allen is progressing, but still in protocol. And the Jets may delay a decision on Sam Darnold until Sunday, Sam.
Well, that would be big for them because Luke Falk is the worst quarterback of the starters right now. So getting Sam Darnold back would be amazing for them. I don't know if that will happen. Like you just said, they will delay their option, but I probably would lean towards not playing him. This isn't a situation where you can rush a quarterback back to play him. So you might get one more week of Luke Falk, and if you're the Jets, it doesn't really matter. At this point, your season's already over.
All right, guys. Anthony, anything else before we wrap it up? Anthony?
No, I said I think we hit on all the talking points.
Oh, well, we didn't hear you say that, even though you might have said it. Sam, anything you want to bring up or talk about, or tell people where they can follow you on Twitter if they want?
No, I'm all good. I forgot my Twitter handle, so I can't help you with that.
Oh, hell. All right. Well, maybe later Sam will tweet to us at Grilling Truth, and then everybody can see what it is. Me and Anthony, of course, will be back tomorrow at noon. And Anthony, do you have any place that you would like to promote, like the FF Face-Off? You have your Twitter handle too, right?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru and follow my show at the FF Face-Off. You can get us anywhere. You can get a podcast on YouTube and on Twitch.
All right, guys, whatever Twitch is. But that's what a lot of people do here in Indiana, but I think it's because of the needles we find in the park. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grilling Truth. So for Sam Teets, Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak. Yeah,